let's paint watercolor pumpkins, but not just regular pumpkins. I like to make a bit of a folk theme about it. So we're going to do things a little bit different. So for this, I'm going to give you a list of materials. You can pause the video here or look down in the description and get the art supplies that you need. And once you have gathered everything, you can press play again and we will continue with sketching the pumpkins. So first of all, as with most of my videos, I also created an outline of the composition that I made here. So you can download it. You can find the link in the description box below. And then you can use that as a reference or maybe even trace it. But you don't need it if you don't want to. You can also follow along drawing with me. And of course, you could also just use some reference pictures of pumpkins, or maybe you have got some pumpkins at home. You can just use that as an example as well. And what I like to do is create some different shapes and sizes of pumpkins and just place them around all over my watercolor paper. And because of the style that I'm going for, I wanted to have, of course, the beautiful pumpkin leaves, but those twirling branches that go along with the pumpkins as well. So I am already making it a bit playful. Now, if you ever make a mistake when making your sketch, you can always use a soft eraser to erase some of the lines. And of course, you don't need to start on watercolor paper right away. You can also use a sketchbook or try out some sketches on like regular or cheaper paper. And when you feel confident enough, you grab your watercolor paper to create your composition over there. So basically, when I've drawn my pumpkins and my bigger leaves, I always like to fill up the entire paper and just figure out some elements that I can draw there. So I've drawn some little leaves and some flowers, and I also have drawn a few pumpkin flowers as well. So if you aren't ready yet with making your composition, don't worry, just simply pause the video or come back to this point later when you're ready for it. And now it's time to start painting. So to start with the painting, I first erase the harsh lines from my composition. So no stress, we're not erasing everything. You still are able to see a little bit. It's just that I prefer not to see those gray pencil lines in my end result. So normally I would use a kneading eraser for it, but all I had at this point was a soft eraser, and that works as well. So now grab your round brush and your watercolor paint, and of course you could pick any color that you like. I start with a darker orange, and I'm just painting within the gray pencil lines, just like it's a coloring page that we're painting in. But what I do right away, something that I really love about watercolor paint, is adding in some other colors. So it blends in really nicely. It has this really pretty effect. So you see that I chose to paint the next two bits of the pumpkin with a lighter orange, but I'm dropping in the darker orange there. So I'm actually just playing around a bit and experimenting, trying things out. And as you see, I also dropped in some pink. I really love to play with colors and see the effect it gives. But with the darker paints, I really love to drop them in around the edges, so you can have like this shading and it gives a little 3D effect. Now for the fun of it, you can also draw in lines, but don't expect them to be crisp, because the paint is still wet. They will like blend out and they get very soft and blurry, but that's the effect I'm going for now. And with some burnt umber, some like dark brown paint, I'm painting the stem of the pumpkin. Now for this pumpkin, or maybe it's a squash, I'm using green paint. I really need to get myself familiar with all the types of pumpkins. I'm just calling everything pumpkin right now. And that's not, I don't know. I really love them, so maybe I should put more interest in that. So with the green one, I added some yellow as well, and then I dropped in some darker green and as a dots for the effect. And now I have a little yellow one with some green as an effect, and the little bigger one I'm also making orange. So if this is going too fast for you, then pause the video when necessary and get back on track. If I would create my videos at actual speed, then this video would probably take 4 hours. So don't let that scare you away of thinking, oh my god, I will be painting for hours. I mean, I hope that you love painting so that it's not a punishment at all to do it. So, and of course you can always come back to it later. As you can see, I am playing around with the, like I have the orange pumpkins and the green pumpkins, and with the green pumpkins I have yellow and some darker green. The pumpkin flowers, I have painted the petals yellow, and I'm going to add some orange and then green later on. And because the paint is still wet, you can see it blending in nicely, and I really love that effect. I'm doing that on purpose. If you want to have like crisp details, then you need to make sure that the paint is dry before you add another layer. So I added some flowers, and well, these aren't like pumpkin flowers, but as I said, I wanted to go for like this folk effect theme, and I thought red flowers would fit in there nicely. And I've added some autumn leaves as well, and I want to create this composition with colors that go well together, and I love the autumn colors. So I have added like a brown reddish colors and also the purple, and I love purple in combination with orange. So I think the colors look really nicely coming together right now. And I'm not finished with the pumpkins yet, but this is the first layer. And now I want the pumpkins to dry before I'm going to add the next layer. So I'm just painting all the little elements that are left. And then after that, the paint needs to dry before we will continue with the next steps. So now that the paint is dry, I'm using a little bit smaller round brush so I can add more details. I can make smaller lines, and I'm adding those lines with like a red-brown color on top of my pumpkin. And I'm doing this for all the pumpkins. It's a nice effect. It makes the pumpkins less flat, and it's all part of my bigger plan to get that folk effect later. Also using the same color for some details on the autumn leaves and on the flowers. I always love this part when you get to add details to a painting, because it really comes together then. And to make it folksy, I had in mind to add dots. I've never done this before. This is an experiment. And so with the same round brush, and I'm starting with the green pumpkin, so I have dark green paint on my brush, and I'm just painting dots. And I have like bigger dots at the bottom of the pumpkin and then smaller when I go to the top. Also using it for some detailed lines on the leaves of the pumpkin, and then adding dots there as well. So I'm playing a bit with the size of the dots, and you also don't need to get too stressful about it, too meticulous. It's just a little bit playful fun. It doesn't need to be perfect. Just trying out some things. Actually, this is a very nice mindful exercise, because you know, we already made the composition, we already painted the pumpkins. We're just now adding some extra, and it's very playful and mindful. Dot, 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 line, line, line. So basically, I'm going to do this for all the pumpkins and all the leaves, playing around a bit with all the colors. And then I'm going to let it dry again, because I want to have a few layers on top of the dots for a nice extra effect. So those dots need to be completely dry before I can add another layer. Otherwise the paint will blend and will get all muddy and will not have the effect that I have in my head. That's my intention. So I'm going to put on some music, maybe speed up the video a bit, and you can go on with your dots until all the pumpkins and all the leaves are done. Oh, just one thing, for those stems, I like to have stripes in a bit of a curvy, bendy way. So now it's time to grab your acrylic markers and we are going to continue with our dots. And I have picked a few colors that I liked, but I must admit that I haven't used all of them. So it goes for you as well. Pick the colors that you like, that you think go well with your pumpkins. And I used a pink one myself to go on top of those dark orange, little bit of red dots that I used on the orange pumpkins, because I wanted to make them lighter and in a shade that goes with the color that I already used. I'm already loving the effect that this is making. So again, this is a very nice and mindful exercise. You're just placing dots on top of the dots that are already there. You don't need to think about it too much or at all. And just see how that beautiful folk effect comes to, well, it's just really turning into something beautiful. I'm using the same pink color on my red autumn leaves as well. And now I'm grabbing my white marker to do the dots on the green leaves, because as I said, I wanted to make them lighter. I've been playing around with the green of the markers, but I just didn't like that color so much. So now that I'm done with the markers, I grab my metallic paint and I'm going to add some details with that as well. I'm just a fan of metallic paint. I really love the effect it gives, and it really completes your artwork. So I'm just using it everywhere where I feel like it is looking good. So like the lines and the details on the leaves, on the pumpkin flowers, and I'm even going over some more dots as well. I am tracing some lines at the pumpkins. I'm using a very small round brush for this because these details are even smaller than the ones we did before. Also tracing some dots here. Of course, you can do whatever you like, what feels good for you. Experiment a bit, don't be afraid to try out things. So basically, this entire video is turning into a very nice and mindful exercise because we are putting a lot of dots everywhere. Now what I like to do is, with the same gold and this small brush, add some twirls everywhere. The twirly things that always are everywhere with the pumpkins. I really like to use the gold and paint them everywhere that I have some empty space left on my art print. And I'm not thinking about it too much. I'm just swirling it around. And once the swirls are ready, you can add some teeny tiny leaves with the same gold color. And I think this is really like the extra effect that this art piece needs for that beautiful folk effect. It's the dots and it's the swirly leaf things that we're adding right now. And I think the gold is helping as well. Sorry, I'm just really excited about how this is turning out. I had this picture in my head, and then it's always very, well, I'm always a bit nervous as, is it going to turn out the way that I had imagined? And for this one, I think it's turning out even better. So I hope that it's also working out for you and that you're having fun with this creation process. So I'm always very curious to see what people create when following my videos. So if you would like to, I would love it if you would post it on your Instagram and then tag me at Sandra Art Studio and use the hashtag create with Sandras so that I can see it, and I would love it. And if you would like some feedback, you can always ask me. I'm happy to give it to you. Now, if you're a bit too nervous to post it on your socials, you can also send it in a DM on Instagram, and I would just love to see it. So as you see, I'm also just painting tiny leaves. So without the swirls, I'm just painting tiny leaves everywhere with the gold. I'm just filling up this piece of paper. And because I'm doing it, it's becoming one cohesive thing. It all fits together. So we are almost finished with this illustration. It's really coming up to the final details. Also using some red metallic paint to add some dots, because I feel like I could use a little darker color everywhere, and those dots help with the folk effect as well. Using the same round brush, just teeny tiny dots. If you would be more comfortable, of course, you could use like an acrylic marker for some dots. That's also fine. Just looking, where do you have some empty space and what makes it like balance all the empty space out a bit. Forgot some golden leaves right here. Just really make sure that you've got everything. And now I'm using some brown metallic paint for the stems of my pumpkins. I'm just like tracing the lines that I've painted earlier. Now you don't need to do this. Of course, if you don't have metallic paint or not all the colors that I'm having, you can use other colors. Or maybe even like metallic gel markers or something. And I have some dark green metallic paint as well. This is one of my favorite. I use it a lot. And I'm tracing the green stripes and dots in the leaves, and it's just giving it some extra contrast. And basically, I really love that metallic effect. But even so, if you don't have a metallic green, as you can see, just because it's so dark, this is a very dark color, it really gives some extra depth. So if you would have like a really dark green, or you could mix it up with like an indigo blue or something to make it really, really dark, really pop out, you could also use that to trace those lines for some extra details that really contrast very nicely with the rest. So now we are really coming to an end, and I really hope that you liked this video. Of course, don't forget to sign your art piece when it's finished. And yes, as I said, I really hope that you liked this video. If so, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. I always love to read what you think about my videos, or maybe if you have some feedback or suggestions for me, then I know what kind of content to create next. And as I said before, please post it on your socials, post it on your Instagram. I'd love to see what you create. Tag me at Sandra Art Studio and use the hashtag create with Sandras. Oh, and of course, if you like my videos, if you like my content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell notification. In that case, you get a message every time I post a new video, so you don't miss out on anything. I'm so happy you watched, and I hope to see you in the next one.